Hi, I'm Remy Greer, and these are lessons from the Loping Pen. Today we're going to go over some basic terms you're going to hear throughout the series. We're going to go over your body position, your horse's body position, and go over the steps for our basic warm-up. One of the main terms you're going to hear me talk about is frame. What I mean by frame is a position of your horse's body. Now, ideally, when they're in frame, we should have their nose tipped to the inside. We should see just the corner of their upper eye, neck rounded, back rounded, and propulsion coming from behind. The next term you're going to hear me say is flagging the legs. Now, by flagging the legs, it means I want you to bump your legs in cadence with your horse's stride without actually adding spur. We're going to drive up to a steady holding hand that's going to keep the propulsion coming from behind and that momentum coming from behind without adding speed, and that allows us to get more body control without having to fight for it. And lastly, we're going to talk about your body position. I imagine that my feet are the heaviest things on my body. Then I don't have to fight for control. My knees are open, my legs are in contact without adding pressure, and my arms are locked into my natural waist. Now, if my arms are like this at my natural waist, I can go up or down for control. I can go forward or back. But it's really important to remember that your hands move independently of each other. So for my body position, my feet are heavy, my knees are open, and my pelvis is rolled up underneath me. So I'm sitting back on my pockets. I imagine there's a balloon on a string tied to my pelvis, which is rocking it up so that I can sit deeper in my saddle. So if my feet are heavy and my pelvis is correct, it makes it very hard for me to get thrown too far forward or rock too far back. I just get to sit right here in my saddle. The other thing about having heavy feet is that it makes it very hard to pinch with your knees. Now, two things happen when we pinch with our knees. First off, we make a fulcrum point, which allows us to rock too far forward and too far back because everything is pivoting off those knees. So when we go work a cow and it turns, we're going to get thrown forward if we grab with our knees. Now, it's not going to happen all the time, and sometimes it'll still happen, but we really do not want to make that a habit. The next thing that you do is you trap horses by pinching them with your knees. We want these horses to be able to rock on their hind end and come under, through, and up under our pelvis. But if we grab them with our knees, right there, we're forcing them to go forward, up, and around our leg and our knee. We want to open those legs so that they have the ability to come through. Now I'm going to soften my shoulders and put my chin up so that I look where I want to go. By doing this, I'm sending minute directions to my horse, and they're going to do what I want 90% of the time. I'm setting the groundwork for muscle memory that's reinstilling good habits for both myself and my horse. Muscle memory is really important, and we have to create these habits so that when we're in a high stress or high anxiety situation, our body and mind automatically know what to revert to without having to think about it. So yes, I can do whatever I want to in a warm-up, but what I'm trying to do is create good habits, continuous good habits, so that I do not have to think about where my body is supposed to be. Now, can I come out here and warm up however I want and flop around? Of course I can. But by doing that, I'm creating bad habits for myself, for my horse, and for my mind. We want to create very good habits. By creating these good habits, we can do whatever we want, but remember to practice with a purpose every time. We prefer to start our warm-ups at a walk because I don't want my horses to think that the minute they walk through that gate, there's somewhere that they have to go. There's just as much good that we can do at a walk. Honestly, it's making your horse listen to you and listen to your cues rather than just setting into a habit that they've developed. So once this horse feels good at a walk, I'm going to collect my reins and drive her up into a collected slow jog. Now right here, I'm working on suppling her face, her neck, and her back. I'm flagging my legs to drive her forward to make sure I have propulsion from behind. Once I have that and I feel good, I'm going to flag my legs some more to get her a little bit softer in her face right here. But once she feels good, then I'm going to release her. We train these horses off of release. Release is so important for these horses because they start to understand that when they do something right, we will release them. They won't get picked on. They won't be in trouble. They do what we ask, there will be release. So once she feels good here, I'm going to stay with this a little bit longer, but what we'll do is about one circle of a collected trot, and then I'm going to release her into a long trot. Now, ideally, again, we want to see that inside top corner of that eye when we're at the long trot, at the collector trot, at everything. People really overlook a warm-up because they think that they're just going to come out here, get their muscles warm, not get their mind right. We need to get these horses' mind right, because if they don't pay attention to you in the warm-up pen, why do you think they're going to pay attention to you in the show pen? Everything that happens in the show pen is magnified from what you do in the warm-up pen. Once she feels good in that long trot, now I'm going to drive her up into an extended or collected long trot, because I want a little bit more speed than my normal collected jog, but I still want her driving up to her frame. And if she tries to lope, I'm just going to knock her back into a jog and go on as though nothing happened. Don't make a big fuss about a small mistake. Once she feels good, we're going to release again, because remember, everything comes off of that release. Gotta take her legs away, look up, and say, whoa. Another thing that's really underrated by a lot of riders is the pause. We need to allow for stops in between those maneuvers so that all that information we just worked on can soak in. We want those horses to think about all the work we just did, because if we don't let them think in, then all of that work was for naught. She feels good. Now we're going to go off the other way. Now we tend to follow the same pattern with our lope as we do with the jog. I like to start with a small, slow, collected circle. Then I'll push for a faster circle and let her settle into a nice lope. The biggest part for me is a soft lead departure. We're going to squeeze her off into that lead and stay with a slow, collected lope. A big part of this is not letting your horse lean on your hand or against the rail. We want them to lope whatever circle we've set them into, at whatever speed we've set them at, unless we ask for something else. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but a pushy horse in the dry work is going to be a pushy horse in the show pen. And it does not matter what we're doing, roping, penning, sorting, cow horse cutting. Your warm-up will end up being key for a successful show. Right here, I'm just driving her up with my feet, and then I'm going to release. Now she's just going to be released into not even a high lope. It's just a nice, easy lope where she's staying in pattern, she's staying in her circle. We're about 10 feet off the fence. If she leans on me, you'll see me pick up and drive her where I want to go. Now to set her into a higher lope, I'm going to step up out of my saddle to release a little bit of the weight on her, send her forward. If I want to slow down, you're going to see my body position change again. Sit deeper in my saddle as almost you would for a stop. Not quite as much. I want a more frame, so you see me pick up my hand and my leg. Here's an overhead shot of me loping. Again, see how I'm not allowing that horse to lean on the fence or lean to the inside. If you see there's no tracks along that fence line, I don't rely on the fence line to keep my horses in the circle. And to be honest, you'll never really see me lope a circle bigger than this 100-foot circle, no matter how big of an area I have. I lope my same circle all the time, and my horses know that that means it's time to go to work. A big question we get is, what if my horse is strong? The biggest problem with strong horses is people keep pulling on them. The more you brace on them, the more that they can brace on you. So what you're going to do is pick up and release. Now it might only be 5 strides, but you're going to pick up and then release. By releasing back to those horses, it gives them something that they can no longer fight against. If you quit pulling, they quit pulling. And it might only be 5 strides that you have to pick up, but soon that 5 strides will turn into every 10 strides and every 15, and eventually you're not going to have to pick up at all. So we want to work on training those horses off of release. I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but it really is true. Release is how we get these horses to be really, really good and solid and want to try all the time. The other big question we get is what I do if my horse leans on me. If it feels like your horse is falling to the outside, and how do most people try and correct it? They try and pull on that inside rein. Well, by pulling on that inside rein, you're creating a horse that's now going to the outside at an even faster speed. And you haven't solved the problem. And not only have you not solved the problem, you've now exacerbated it. So what are you going to do if your horse leans to the outside? You're going to pick straight up on your outside hand. That's going to stop that shoulder. It's like a wall that shoulder cannot get through. Now, if I need to move my horse to the outside, I'm going to pick up on my inside hand and add a little bit of inside leg. And you see how quickly that horse moves away. Again, we've trained these horses for a little ask and big response. Make sure that you're doing the work. This does not happen overnight, but we can make the best of every situation. Just keep picking away at what you're doing. Putting the work in back here, almost all but guarantees your success, or at least your happiness with your horse. So put in the work. I know it's not always fun, but you'll be surprised at the places you can go. Thank you for watching, and hope you can join us next week for some beginner and intermediate suppling exercises. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us or leave a note down below.